agus tamid beo a riist. Tá fáilte roimh a lig go léir a rééis tamid beo le lumsa Cathal ó Murthu agus Fergus Nolan agus Karen ní Greenan as cumann na Saoirse. And we are here tonight to have a little bit of a follow-up chat about the fantastic rally on Saturday in Dublin, and a couple of other things about that, about the extraordinary growth that there's been in the party since that. Actually, we're absolutely snowed under. Yeah, and we're all working flat out on that. But yeah, it was a very good rally and very well received. And just about the continual, Dolores made the point quite strongly about enough is just enough of this, and I'm inclined to totally agree with it. Guys, any thoughts on that? Fergus, Karen, want to chip in?
Fergus, you go ahead.
Yeah, I have to say it's the first event I've been at in a couple of months, obviously given the circumstances that we find ourselves in, and it was brilliant. I mean, it was a very well supported day, which was brilliant to see, because a lot of people would have been put off by the general, the Gardaí presence and so forth. But I do think everybody was very well behaved. It was family friendly as well. There was people prepared to bring their children there as well, which was fantastic. And that's a reflection of the type of support that the Irish Freedom Party are getting. It's people who are very serious about the way this country is going, and that was reflected as well in the comments, in the speeches that were made. All of the speakers were very well disposed towards discussing the future, and just really the situation that we're in at the moment really is not a good one to be in, but and we're very poorly served by the people who call themselves our leaders. Karen?
Well, this is my first rally now this year. We've been so busy with other things during the year. It was great to go, and again, there was no trouble. It was very friendly. That the crowd was lovely, and they were enjoying it. They're enjoying the speeches, and they were very good speakers. We had a new speaker, Kevin Sharkey, who recently came on board with us, and we had Alan Sweeney on top of our own leaders, which I think was fantastic to have. And I think a broad range of different topics that were brought up, between the hate speech, vaccinations, and what Rose is doing, and also what was going on in the country, which Herman was talking about as well, regarding our freedoms and how we were looking at it, and talking about the alliance with Direct Democracy Ireland and Renew relation to the Free Speech Alliance, which is very important. And that bill is going through the Oireachtas at the moment. And it's actually very similar to a bill in Scotland, which has actually been highlighted recently on Monday. A program I watched on Facebook called UK Economy, when they were talking about free speech laws that are going through in Scotland are very similar to what's going on in Ireland, and that's very important. We need to be able to hold on to our free speech.
Is that the hate speech thing, Karen, that the EU? Is that the hate speech that the EU is talking about at the minute? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and it's very similar to.
And they're making it law. They're trying to make it law, aren't they?
Yeah, and also Scotland a little bit ahead on the process, but we're a little behind. But regarding what the government is trying to do, is to kind of stop us from talking about anything. We can't even say Irish is for Ireland anymore. So look, we need to protect that and make sure that we don't go down that road, despite what the Constitution is saying. But overall, I really enjoyed the atmosphere. There was no trouble. The guards were there. They were supporting us. They weren't giving us any grief. We were working with them. They have a job to do, but also we do. We need to be out there during the lockdown, regardless of what level it's at, whether it's level 3 or level 5, doesn't make any difference. We need to show the public that we're not afraid to go out and break these ridiculous rules. And again, travelling up and down, getting to Dublin, and the weather and everything else kind of added to it, and the humour, and it was very important to bring that into it. Because people we can get bogged down in the seriousness and the depressive nature of what's going on in the country. Not being able to go out, the shopping, the businesses, the travel, the confusion about what we can do and what level and all that, and when we can do it. I mean, for instance, the night before, our government has turned around and said we can only go leave our county from the 18th of December to 6th of January. That's not acceptable. It's Christmas. And they're taking that away from everybody, whether you like Christmas or not. And then on top of that, they're saying now they have to, wear masks in the street if it's a busy area.
Yeah.
That's not up to them. It's not up to them. And I just think, with the vaccine now coming up now, I've seen this in the paper today, 12th of January, just after the UK. Again, that's going to be a big push. You can't go anywhere, do anything without the proof of vaccination. That's something we need to push against. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Everyone seemed to enjoy the rally. It was a great success overall.
It would have been nice to go for a few drinks afterwards, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I was saying
you
that.
know what I mean?
I was saying that. Do you remember the day?
Yes.
Do you remember going for a pint? Do you remember that? You remember the?
Last December, we were going for a pint and relaxed, enjoyed after the day's rallying against the HB laws last December. And I think really that needs to be.
I had quite a few pints after that.
Sorry?
I had quite a few pints after that. I was on the train back. I was probably in the same train back as you. No, you were in the bus probably. I had the bike and everything. I was watching, hoping I wasn't going to be one of those ones attacked on the bike, because there was a guy attacked after that one in Dublin.
Last December. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think he might have been a lefty, but everybody was absolutely disgusted that he was attacked. I think he was killed, actually. There was a guy killed last year after that.
Oh, yeah, that was at the Lewis, somewhere near the Charlemont.
Because what a lot of these guys do is they tend to pick on single people making their way back that look like they might have been at a demo, and they get attacked. So if you're wearing a yellow vest or something, you're very easily identifiable. But I just want to pick up on one point. There were some people that were getting a wee bit of they got singled out for a bit of attention. Some people in NetFet and what have you. But this guy, we talked about it during the week, Karen, Dr. Death, I kind of call him Holohan.
Tony Holohan, yes. Dr. Tony Holohan, yeah. He's running the country.
Yeah, he's the one that's running the show, right? And he's the one that's pontificating about everything that has to happen. But I mean, without saying anything libelous or anything, was he not involved in that whistleblowing thing about the cervical smear? He was misdiagnosing.
Yes. And I was saying that to you last weekend. And he didn't really do the right thing by women, and a lot of women have died, and unfortunately it does more, I'd say, will follow. We've Emma Mattenhoon, we have other, another lady now, unfortunately, probably will not, she probably will be another victim. I think another lady who died there last weekend. I'm not sure the details. But still, the fallout is still happening, and he was given the job, a very important job. We need a clinical medical officer, to help us deal with big issues, but not somebody who has a track record like that, who has no interest in doing the right thing, but the people that need to do it, whether it's the public or women's health or men's health or the general health of the nation.
But they always tend to, when somebody makes a complete balls up, what tends to happen is they get a promotion. What was the old joke,
Yeah.
But I mean, you might know more about this guy than me. Yeah, you might know more about this guy than me. But it seems to me that I read a wee bit about it during the week, and there was a culture of people were whistleblowing, and then they didn't follow through. That was there sort of undue pressure put on them, maybe, or.
There's a strong culture of whistleblowers getting the raw deal throughout. I mean, whether it's on the political side, medical side, justice side, we've seen it loads of times. And you can't whistleblow in this country despite the legislation. Sometimes the culture of that kind of, pushing back on whistleblowers is more stronger than the law. And the law isn't strong enough to destroy that culture. And you can't get past it. Because the people above, like, in the Morris McCabe case, the people above are very hard. And the person who's suffering has to either lose their job, lose whatever they have, and lose their reputation and in a process. So I don't, maybe Fergus needs to know more about that story. I don't know.
Do you know the guy in question, Fergus? That guy, the guy, Dr. as I jokingly call him, Dr. Death. Tony Holohan, you know him?
I know.
We have our own ones in the know.
I know of him, but one of the things, just coming back on the whistleblowing, organisations, particularly ones that are very institutionalised, like the Gardaí and the Health Service and so on, they're very, very difficult to rock the boat. I mean, you're sitting in with people who are embedded in that organization, and organizations have what they call a culture. So, it's very much inculcated in new staff that this is the way we do things around here, and you do not rock the boat or you will not go any further. So really, I think if anybody's prepared to whistleblow, they've got to be prepared to lose their job. That's the way it is. And Garda McCabe, I think he was coming towards retirement. Not necessarily, I think he was able to retire as opposed to he had to retire.
Yes,
I'm not sure, but certainly his position was, even though Gardaí knew he was right, they were not prepared to risk their own jobs by supporting him. And that's the bottom line. I mean, what happened to that man was an absolute disgrace. And I don't know how people weren't hauled in and fired and lose their pension for what they did to him. But and even apart from him, in other sectors as well, there are. You're dead right. And I mean, I've only ever worked in the private sector, so I don't have any knowledge of that sort of environment. But in the private sector, you kind of get away with it to a better degree. But again, you do need to be prepared to walk.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that in the sex scandals in the Catholic Church. A lot of people knew it was going on, but nobody was prepared to speak out about.
Sure.
And then Cardinal Brady, he rose through the ranks. I'm not saying he was involved in it, but he certainly rose through the ranks. People were scared of losing their jobs, and they don't speak out. So it's the same as Savile, the Jimmy Savile thing.
Oh, Jesus,
there is, I mean, I don't know, just talking about that, I mean, the Late Late Show last week was on. There's a lot of criticism about the thing about the vaccine being mentioned in the wee kid being used. It's a bit like the Nazis and Saddam Hussein all used kids for propaganda. Yeah. Any comments on that?
Well, can I just say on the Jimmy Savile business, there was I think his name is John Lydon, the singer out of the Sex Pistols.
He said it back in the day, yeah.
He said it back in the day. I mean, the videos are there on YouTube. You can see, and he was asked about it much more recently. And he said everybody knew that man was, as they say in Britain, he was a wrong'un. He was just up to his neck in depravity, and he got away with it for a long, long time. And but anyway, look, that was then, and you'd like to think it wouldn't happen anymore. But then in the UK, they have these situations in places like, where is it, Leicester or somewhere, where there's the social services have been culpable in not addressing grooming and so forth amongst certain communities over there. You'd like to think it wouldn't happen here, but they say, I mean, it could happen anywhere.
I mean, regarding Savile, and maybe they should reopen the Savile inquiry.
Boom, boom.
No.
Yeah, okay. Will everybody get that joke?
Maybe not. The Savile inquiry, if anybody doesn't know, was to do with Bloody Sunday, but no, just a little, just trying to lighten the mood.
Yeah. A Patriots joke.
Yeah, I know, it was an in-joke, but there was criticism of Tubridy, and it's almost like, I mean, that wee kid in question wouldn't have known what a vaccine was, so they're normalising the whole use of the vaccines,
Yeah.
So some people were saying, come on.
I was going to say, it shouldn't be about, that show is for kids. It's for toys. It's for enjoying and being a child and talking about toys and books and Christmas. And yet they push that agenda on them. And that's not fair. They probably think that's against them.
Yeah.
But the adults should know better. And listening to people around me the last couple of days, they thought it was a great show. They never once mentioned the child with the teddy bear and the vaccine. It should never, ever, ever be about pushing that kind of agenda. That's an adult world. It's an adult.
True. The adults, I mean, the powers that be know that if you can get children on board with this kind of thing, you can drive it through an awful lot easier, because the children are going to be talking about it to their parents, to their friends, and that's what they do. But even to move topics slightly, the EU do that as well. They run a program called the Blue Star program, which is aimed directly at primary school children to teach them about all the great things that the EU can do for them. And that's an evil thing to do, because you're involving children in something. I spoke to former Ambassador Ray Bassett about this. He addresses that topic in his book. But anyway, that's an aside. We come back talk about that maybe some other time. But it's certainly it's something adults are quite prepared to use children to do their dirty work. That's all there is to it.
Yes.
Suzanne Brown's saying, rumor has it that was Simon Harris's daughter. He's another Dr. Death, isn't
he? Yes. Oh dear.
I mean, he was involved in that cervical thing, wasn't he? He was involved in the cervical smear thing, wasn't he?
Well, he would have been part of it, but he is the health minister, and the book should stop with him. But I mean, if you put a CMO in charge of that situation, they are both responsible, even though Simon Harris is the health minister. But even goes further back to the problem with what's her name, that the female minister back in the day,
Mary Harney.
Mary Harney, yes, she introduced the private foreign labs into this system to deal with any testing, which should never have happened. We have labs here in Ireland to do any testing, and that's what caused the problem, was quality and delays, wrong results to these women. Now, I don't know everything about it, so I don't want to be saying too much. I mean, that was the gist of the whole problem. When you bring in a private company into a public health system, all problems come together, and they just cause so much, and it results in death. It results in bad management. And when people don't take control of it, they could have.
But it's just typical that people make it balls up, they make a complete incompetent mess of something, and they get promoted. You know, that's happened.
That's what they call it's a well-known phenomenon known as the Peter principle, is that you get promoted to the point of your own stupidity.
Yeah.
Another joke on that would be some people who don't do anything at work kind of get promoted. They're ones that are very unproductive at work. They actually do get promoted because they would say, well, the less they do, the less people have to fix. So they,
yeah, nice one.
Well, I come to the public sector, and I see that. Yes, I see that.
But the less you do, the less screw ups you'll make as well. So
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's it. So they promote you up out of the way, and then you'll do even less, and so they'll sort of think, right, well, he's not going to make any more messes, really. Just get him out of the road and let him just be a figurehead, and
Well, you think that solves the problem, but it doesn't, because they don't know what's going on the ground. Whenever you work in a public health hospital, believe me, the people on the ground know more what's going on, how things work, and I've seen it happen loads of times when you're in a union or a meeting, and quite recently, you see the mess. They don't know half things what's going on the ground and how to solve the problem, and these are managers. And I know it seems bad to criticize, people who are trying to do the best they can, but when they don't make the effort, it's very, very difficult to kind of explain to them where you're coming from. Go back to basics, understand what's going on the ground, the processes of how things work in a hospital or civil service or whatever. You have to, kind of explain something that's so basic. And the wrong people get promoted, and it's not for the right reason. And it happens on a regular basis, and it's not right. Hard work. I come from an ethic a culture where hard work should be rewarded. It's very, very simple. Why? I mean, if you work hard in your job and you do all the right things, you get the training, you get a qualification.
It tends to not be like that. It doesn't always work like that. The hard workers, it's work smarter as well. Donald Trump made a very good point. I mean, you are an incredibly hard worker, don't get me wrong. But Donald Trump actually made a very good point. He doesn't. Good workers are the worst. He either wants bad workers or great workers, because it's very hard to get rid of a good worker. But he doesn't want people to just be good. He wants them to be great. But he can get rid of a bad worker. But you can't get rid of a good worker because he's good, but he wants great. Well, that's just another side. Here, Karen, there's Karen Dunn's on. Gee, that's Karen.
I see that.
Yeah. Karen, by the way, is the heating not on in your house? Is the heating not on?
Is that me you're talking to?
Yeah.
The heat is on my house. Yeah, why?
sorry. You look like you're well wrapped up on it. No.
Yeah, well,
Look,
it's cold down here, you know.
some people have been commenting on the speeches that were made. I mean, they were excellent speeches, and I thought Kevin Sharkey's speech, that was his first main one since joining. That was great to see him there. And he was the only one, actually. I think he mentioned. I think it was mentioned by some of the other ones, but Kevin certainly made the point about immigration has to be tackled, and enough is enough in terms of immigration until we get where we're going, until we know where we are with it. And I thought his speech was quite good on that point. And then Dahi, you probably saw during the week, he did a wee piece on a lot of the immigrants that come in that aren't Irish, and they constantly criticise and moan and groan and want to change Ireland. They're not happy with it. But to just make the point, I'll not labour the point, but people like Kevin and Paul McGrath, who played for Ireland, and Phil Lynott, to name but three, who may be mixed race, but they're 100% Irish in all aspects because they love Ireland, and they have a feel that they are Irish to the core, and they're not trying to change it. They're proud and happy to be Irish.
Yeah,
that's my stab. That's my stab at it.
That's
so
different. Yeah.
Ethnicity is irrelevant. It's how you feel. It's how you. It's
how you identify.
How you identify. Yeah. And he did the point. He says, Paul McGrath, Irish, and then your woman from Africa. What's her name? She's got that funny name. She's not Irish, because everything she comes out with just suggests. What's her name?
Joseph. Is it Eben Joseph?
Yes.
I saw somebody was commenting during the week, I think on Twitter, that she has lost her job in UCD. I don't know if that's true or not, but certainly it's just something I read. Somebody made a comment. I think she's made a career out of slagging off where she calls home.
Oh, your woman, yeah. I mean, they're going to come over and start saying, "Take that statue down. Take that down. That's offending me." What they would say to you in America is, "There's a place over there called Kennedy Airport. You know, if you don't like it,
out you go." Yeah. But I mean, it's funny the way, as Irish people, we're Irish people, there's plenty of monuments all over this country to British royalty, and certainly the Wellington Monument in Phoenix Park. Are we going to start howling that we want that torn down? No, we're not.
I mean, it's history. It's part of our history.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a vital part of our history. It's part
whether
of our
we like
identity.
it or not.
Yeah.
You can't erase it. I mean, a lot of people. There's a thing on there about the famine there, and it was very good actually in RT for a change.
I heard it was brilliant. I didn't see it. Yeah.
Liam Neeson did the document, the commentary, and it was excellent. I mean, it showed you how harrowing it was. But that's part of our history. There's no point trying to say that didn't happen, you know.
Yeah.
But it makes.
And one of the interesting things about the famine. Now, I didn't watch that program, but historically, I think we're all in Leinster here on this show tonight. Leinster didn't really suffer that much with the famine. The famine was more localised towards the rural parts of Ireland. They suffered. Us Leinsterites.
Ulster didn't really suffer. Ulster or Leinster didn't really suffer.
Yeah, didn't suffer much. And they arguably the more, shall we say, Anglophile parts of Ireland.
Yeah.
But just a little throwaway comment there.
Yeah, I have to say I didn't realise. I thought it was an old country, you know, urban and rural. Yeah, well, I will be watching that at a later stage.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Ulster didn't really get it at all, to be honest. Well, it did a wee bit, but not to the extent that the South and West got.
Yeah. I
mean, we're talking about the identity as well. Birthright identity is a big topic at the minute. If they push this through, it's going to make Ireland one of the only country in Europe that has birthplace identity, citizenship. Yeah. I mean, they're liberalising those laws. They've got the most liberal laws on abortion, the most liberal laws on LGBT. It's just a complete atheist situation, isn't it?
And what I read earlier on, from what I read, that you don't have to change it, but it's going through the artists at the moment. But they don't have to have a referendum on it. And this is what we argued about it before. Why is that? A referendum brought it about it the right way in 2004, but in order to change it back, they don't need a referendum. And I don't understand why, and I'm missing it somewhere, why we don't need a referendum to change it back.
It's the same. I mean, to talk about, just mention the word abortion here. That when that came out of the Constitution, it's now in the hands of the legislature. It's up to Dáil Éireann to legislate on what that means. So in effect, there doesn't ever need to be an abortion referendum to bring a ban on abortion back in. Simply control of Dáil Éireann can drive that through, regardless
like a change of parties.
So that business with this citizenship malarkey that the Labour Party are pushing, and it's no surprise when you see who's behind it. It's out of the Constitution, which now means that Dáil Éireann can legislate. So, and that's where they're pushing through. I mean, there's only a couple of members of the Labour Party at the moment, but they've just been kind of working behind the scenes to get this done for a long, long time now. And I would venture to say there's an ulterior motive to it, and this is only step one. I mean, if they get this through, who's to say we don't find ourselves? The word regularise was used today in a press release by the Labour Party to regularise the situation for these children. Well, who else has been calling for regularisation? Only the illegal aliens who live in this country. They're looking for a pathway to citizenship as well. And their first engagement with the country is to repudiate our laws by effectively sneaking in. And yet they want to be able to remain. It's an outrage is what it is. So it's important that this doesn't proceed, but I don't know what power anybody has. The government what goes on in Dáil Éireann is the rules and regulations for how they run their business, but certainly in terms of PESCO going back a couple of years as well, it was effectively driven through, despite the Irish neutrality now doesn't really exist anymore, simply because of the way we signed up to what is going to be the European Army. People say it isn't the case, but of course it is.
That was signed without any discussion back in December 2017. I remember going to a big, not a rally, it was like a forum led by, Eamon Ryan was at it, some of the left was at it, what's her name, not Karen Black, I think she's a senator there.
Mary Black.
Mary Black, not her sister, not Mary Black, her sister.
Frances Black.
She was at, Frances Black. And they were all, and I have to say it was excellent, talking about PESCO, but I mean, the fact that it was pushed through without debate, signed up and done without any public debate and no knowledge of it really. I mean, people know about it through Facebook, but it didn't really come out and say, listen, we're now part of a big EU defence, and that's it. And then that brings in the EU army.
Which has a huge financial impact as well, because
absolutely.
I'm not 100% certain of my figures, but I gather in a couple of years' time, Ireland will pay $2 billion per year in defence contributions. Now that's a lot of money. We seem to be paying money left hand over fist to the EU for one scheme after another, and OBR is a money tree. We're being shaken down every couple of years for something. And the same, the UN, the declaration on Marrakesh was rammed through the media. This was known about. It was coming for several months, and then suddenly it came and went in the space of about 2 days. The Irish media never covered it in advance of it happening, but they crowed about it after the Irish government signed up to it. Nobody could mobilise to protest against it because it had already been done. It's a tactic.
Publicly mentioned,
it's a tactic. They realise, the media, and somebody in our Galway sent a message to me last night. He's written a paper on the Irish media and how we don't have a free media, and he's dead right. Because if we did, these people would actually tell us what we need to know, as opposed to feed us a line of whatever. I mean, we're like mushrooms. We're being kept in the dark and fed shit, is what we are.
Yeah. No doubt.
We were talking, we touched on a point during the week. You see, in the very start of this thing, Boris Johnson in Britain made a point about herd immunity has to be the way to deal with this. And even the guy, Luke O'Neill, the doctor down south, was telling us all that masks are worse than useless. And now the agenda on both sides of the Irish Sea is completely changed. Now, Karen, you mentioned the video about your man Luke O'Neill getting doorstepped by a guy walking down the street, asking him about, the vaccine, and he says, has he got any shares in it? And he started off saying that he didn't have shares in these companies, but then he kind of said that he did. He was kind of involved in one of them. So maybe we're getting at the truth there. Some of these guys have shares in the vaccine, and they're pushing
not directly,
that.
but indirectly.
Maybe not indirectly, yeah. And Boris Johnson, we talked about it last week, maybe he's been bought off. They've been bribed, they've been bought off. Their initial instinct was to say, look, herd immunity is the only way of dealing with this. But now it's all lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. So there seems to be a change. And at what point have they changed,
Yeah. And
that's
there's
an
MP, I was just watching the UK colonies before he came out, and his second name is Waynes, and he was challenging the government about the lockdowns. But there's also a mention of influencers and how much money has been spent on the pub and how to get the public's confidence. Because Matt Hancock has now come out yesterday, or not today actually, talking about vaccines coming up next week. But it's going to be 27 million or more than 27 million pounds going to be spent on influencers such as celebrities and other agencies in the UK just to persuade and give confidence to the public. But this guy, the second name is Waynes, and he said, well, if that's the case, you need to get the MPs and their families and their children to have this vaccine first, if they're so confident about it. And that's right. If they're that confident about this and the safety and efficacy of these vaccines, they need to go and do it first. Because seemingly you get two, there's one given, say, the first week, 21 days, you get another. But obviously they're vulnerable, the nursing homes, the hospital staff get it first. And then after that, but it'll take a long time, it won't happen overnight, it'll take several months to do. You're talking about well over 70 million people in the UK, to get it done. But then in January, we're getting ours. But again, it comes down to there's not enough information given. And I know BBC, they put up a graph of the phases of a vaccine being made for COVID and one that's made for, say, another virus. And it takes 10 years from the time of thinking about testing it all the way to making it, compared to the COVID, which was only took 9 months. And the difference, and they're saying that it took more than a year. It only took 9 months. They're saying actually, correction, it was 2 years. But we're only hearing about it. The COVID thing only started in March. The lockdown started in March. We're still going to have to expect to wear masks because not everyone's going to be vaccinated straight away. So there's a danger of spreading if you don't wear the mask, if you don't get the vaccine, if you don't social distance. So that's not over. You've been told it is, but it isn't over. And he also argued against, having a vaccine passport to get into the pub, for a restaurant, going to a match, the usual things that you would normally do. Your civil liberties are undermined every which way on this vaccine issue.
That issue about vaccine passports, or whatever you want to call them, certificates, that was I heard somebody banging on about that on the radio this morning. And I know Boris Johnson has been very, very adamant that he won't countenance vaccine passports in the UK. One of his ministers, I think, made some reference to perhaps having them today and got shot down. I mean, Boris himself completely ridiculed that notion. And fair play to him. But the guy who was on RTE today, he was an experimental virologist or something like that. It was this morning. I think it was probably on the Claire Burns show or whatever. But he had some great points to make that you're not going to, it's just not going to work. I mean, it's just a complete and utter violation of civil liberties, plus the fact he was going on technically about it, and I was driving, so I wasn't really paying much attention, but I'm sure it's available on playback if anybody wants to check that out. And then there was a member of the Irish Council for Civil Liberties talking about it too. Very interesting, a very informed discussion, and not one that was going the way you would think it would go here in Ireland.
I have to say, I'm very skeptical. I think this semi-opening up of the lockdown down south is going to be temporary, and it's sounding very like after Christmas they're going to put it back in the lockdown again.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
what I'm
goes without
thinking as
saying.
well.
I mean, yeah, I don't think there's any question of that. I think there's already dates. The county lockdown is only ending for 3 weeks or something, and then it's back in place. I think. I have to say, I don't read the news every day, so I'm not fully up to speed with it. But it would beg a belief that they won't reimpose a lockdown. And the vaccine is going to take months before that's rolled out. And what are you going to do? Are you going to start giving that to kids as well? I mean, this could go on. It could be next autumn by the time anybody's talking about doing away with masks.
I heard them talking about autumn.
Oh,
I heard them talking about autumn.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then,
It's
of course,
truly scary, isn't it?
it is scary. And when you think about it, it's like we're all hopeful. I mean, I've cancelled a couple of holidays this year, and thankfully I've been reimbursed the price of the flights. But I have family in the US. I want to go over and visit them. I couldn't go over this year. So, and I know it's first world problems, but at the end of the day, I do want to see them. And who's to say Aer Lingus don't decide to tell me I have to have a COVID passport? And frankly, I'll get it simply because I do want to be able to fly. But I won't be rushing to get it, but I'll get it. Which brings me to a point as well, just on the to go. I know you guys probably have what you want to talk about, but I just want to say briefly on the COVID passport thing. People are worried about having to do this, but we've been vaccinated, most of us, since we were children, and those records exist already in the HSE. And certain countries in the world, for example, the US, you can't send your children to school over there in the public school system without having them had vaccines already. And you must prove that. I know because, as I say, a family over there, that's the reality that lots of countries are already operating in. It just doesn't apply here in Ireland and most of the continent. But it's certainly, I think we're getting overly worried. And don't forget our passport as well has an awful lot of data, including biometric data on us. And we're very happy to show that when we fly. So, vaccine passport. And we all get jabs when we go to places like Thailand. Nobody bats an eyelid, really. And yet, God knows what we're being vaccinated for there. So I think there's a degree of perspective we need to keep about that issue.
But my concern is that they're rolling out so quickly that they're not tested properly.
Fair comment.
And we are seeing reactions in the hospital, where children, I'm not saying every time, but you need to be clear on why are they pushing them so fast and why are they locking us down just to get a vaccine out. It's all about money. It's all about control. So I understand where you're coming from. You're probably, okay, like yellow fever or, if we need a vaccine for real serious stuff. We've had smallpox over the years and that. But some vaccines, like the flu, never cure the flu.
True.
Do you know what I mean?
I take your point.
We have it every year, but we've never...
And not
never cure the flu.
Yeah, the vaccine
won't
that we
cure
get...
viruses. You will not cure viruses.
Yeah.
And it worries me about that. I mean, we should be able to say no. If we feel like... people are very healthy. Most of us are very healthy. We can withstand a lot of different infections.
Sure.
Our body's constantly fighting. Right now, your body's constantly fighting an illness. You're picked up somewhere along the day, a handle on a door, whatever. But it's constantly fighting a virus of some sort or another. So your immune system...
I think our election thing, there needs to be some draining of the swamp. I think for the next elections, north or south, we should be going drain the swamp. Because you see the swamp up in the north that are talking about, we're guided by the science. Well, what science? The science that the vaccine, you've got 99.5% chance of surviving it. Is that not science? Why are you guided by that science?
I see Rory. No. Rory has just commented on testing on long-term effects and so on. That was one of the things I mentioned the Claire Burns show this morning on RTE. One of the points they made is that the vaccine, the guy who was talking mentioned, none of these vaccines have been tested on children. Okay, so all of the testing and it's now the rollout, it's entirely 100% of that is to do with adults. So I mean, I don't know enough about it to say are children completely and utterly immune and always will be, or at what age do they become carriers or susceptible? But there's been no testing on children. That categorically was said on the radio this morning.
And the poor uptake of the nasal flu for children is very low as well, and they're concerned about that. But what I can say for regarding the COVID, regarding children, we're not seeing a huge amount of children getting the swine flu and, the swine flu, correction, the COVID, and they were recovering very quickly. You got to remember too, the children are very resilient when they're allowed to deal. Their bodies are allowed to deal with an illness, with this gastro or an infection of some sort or another. So they're deemed positive COVID and they're gone in a few days. They're not in ICU and they're not dying. It's like a common cold. We see enough of children with so many viral illnesses that doctors can't identify. So not always going to be a bit of coli. Sorry?
You won't beat the virus. You're right. A virus, you can deal with the symptoms, but you cannot beat or kill a virus in that regard.
They'll just go around the world.
Yeah. They do. They take their course from day dot. The cold virus takes its course. You cannot eradicate the common cold.
Yeah.
I mean, they should have. You know the old chant, "You'll never beat the Irish." In a way, you'll never beat the virus. You will never beat it in that regard. In that way, it has to honestly take its course and protect the elderly, of course. But this lockdown has gone on too long now. It has to be a different agenda.
And
what's going to be next?
The Department of Finance has issued figures today as well. The X number of billions more we're in the hole than we were expected to be. So, and the tax take, I think last month was actually quite poor, which is really disturbing because this is the month in which everybody pays their taxes. If you're self-employed or if you're an apartment owner or whatever. So I don't know whether. There's going to be huge consequences financially for this. And I really do think that the people who run this country are so mediocre, they simply sit back and do what they're told, and none of them have an iota what they're doing. They're just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, that's all they're doing.
Yeah, but it's children who'll be paying this back. I mean, our children aren't even born, won't be born in 20 years, will still be paying this back. Somebody made the point to me that reparations for, I think it was World War I or II, were only paid back quite recently in Germany.
Yeah.
I mean, that's decades after the fact. And the consequences of this are going to be with us for 50 years.
Yeah.
And who's to say there's not another virus comes along in a year or two, and suddenly we're in a hole again. We're never getting out of this mess.
What happens if another virus comes along that is actually killing people in their 40s and 50s? What are they going to do then? What's the lockdown going to be then?
Yeah.
What sort of precedent have they created here?
Yeah.
But one of the problems with that, Cathal, is that we've all meekly rolled along with this. Everybody's bought into this lockdown. I mean, there's people almost in hysterical fear over walking down the street past people. I see them every day, and they're nearly diving in the road to get past you.
I know.
I mean, it's creating a new it's creating a kind of a new Twilight Zone atmosphere when you're in shops and that, and there's an aggression now from certain people, like, "Oh, you're down too close to me," or "You're this," or "Why?" It's creating a different sense of, and Karen, we talked about that blinking. The old banging saucepans at the door thing. I mean, that was the height of nonsense. That was social control, power extraordinaire. And the same people would cut your bloody head off. And they're virtue signaling to the extreme, standing at their doors banging saucepans, as if to say, "Look at us, we're great people." And the sort of people that wouldn't give you time of day. I hated that.
True.
I don't know if you had it down south, but they had it up in the north anyway.
Not so much down here. Maybe Dublin, but I had stopped now ages ago. But I heard something quite this morning on the radio, and quite sad really, regarding, we talking about money. The money that the government is giving to businesses to support them, regarding their, payment of their staff and just keeping the doors kind of open, so to speak.
Yeah.
The tourism industry has taken a huge hit. We all know that. But some of the tourism companies in Ireland are going to close for good because the grants are not enough to keep them open. Once they're open, they can't stay open. So I was talking to a lady today. I was actually out in Drogheda this morning, and I was giving out leaflets to businesses because now they're open, like the salons, the barbers, the shops that weren't open last week. I got talking to people, and it was very sad because, you know, I mean, the amount of barbers in Drogheda alone is, you know, it's very high, and it's great to see them open again. But they're going to be closed after Christmas. They're going to be closed after Christmas, and I think they know that. And that's very sad. Like one lady said to me that she wasn't a manager, but her boss said she wouldn't be able to stay open. If she did, she wouldn't be allowed to sell one item because everything else is deemed non-essential. And this is on the baby and mother and baby shop, where everything is essential.
Yeah.
The pram, the cot, you know, the baby accessories, and to me, everything is essential. I was trying to explain to them that your business is essential as the supermarket. You know, so I think we're going to have to change tactics. And I keep on saying this, you know, over and over again. We're too aligned on Facebook. And I think
Well, we have
we
plans to be out this weekend. We're not going to give away the details, but we have plans to be out this weekend.
Yes,
and I'm hoping we're going to
we
get a few
have to
people.
go back to basics here. Feet
Fergus,
on
are
the
you free on
street.
Saturday?
I'll talk to you about that in a minute later on.
Yeah.
All right. No bother. We'll not give away the details just, but we are
Feet
planning.
on the street. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Feet on the street, talking to people, having a plan B when plan A can't work. We're going to have to change tactics here. That's putting posters up on lampposts. Do whatever we can. Get visible, get talking, and that's the way we're going to have to operate. Because Facebook is not going to get the message out here. I'm tired of seeing the same people turning up on certain things. Because we're just talking to the same people. We're seeing
an echo
Facebook.
chamber.
It's ridiculous, and we're not growing. We are growing to a certain extent, but we need to get beyond the person who's, like, you know, people I work with, people I see every day at work, and people I see in the buses. They're wearing face masks. They're afraid of their lives. They think, you know, this is all great. The government's doing the right thing. They're not getting the information. Like some members of my family are awake to a certain extent, but yet still would be, you know, cautious, which I get. But at the same time, we
Karen, there's a question there.
Okay,
How was the leaflet aimed at small businesses received?
Well, for a start, I've done it twice now in the last 2 weeks, and it went down very well. I only had one refusal. The taxi drivers were brilliant. Some of them I couldn't reach because they were closed and they'd no letterboxes, so I couldn't really get to them. But today is a better day. I went out and I was talking to them in the shops and leave them in the salons and the barbers and you know, shops that really need that kind of like help, because they are going to be closed in January or February, and we need to make sure that they know we're active in Louth or just generally across the country. I think we all need to be out there wherever we're actually a presence in wherever county we're in, whether it's Cork or Dublin, Drogheda or Kilkenny, it doesn't matter. And I think generally it was very good, very positive. They weren't refusing except one, which I covered a wide range of business in the area. Some shops, but mainly salons. They tend to be getting a raw deal, but everything is essential. They know that themselves. One lady I went into, she owned a knitting shop. Like, you know, that's essential. That's her business. That pays her, gives her a life. Pays her bills, her mortgage, her car, her food, her clothes. Every business is essential to somebody. And it's essential to the person that's using it. Because it was actually a lady in before me, and she was getting knitting. That helped her going through lockdown. It's an interest, it's a craft, it's a skill. That's essential to somebody.
Did it work on a national basis?
It did. I know we initially done this back in September, I remember, and everybody got a leaf. All the leaders, common leaders, got leaflets, and I've still some left, and obviously we can do more at the weekend and the coming weeks, because just because it's Christmas, we shouldn't, you know, stop.
It's not Christmas yet. It's not Christmas yet. It's not Christmas till the 25th of December.
I agree.
And then it's the 12 days of Christmas. I hate these people that bring down Christmas trees on Boxing Day. Christmas isn't until the 25th of December and then till the 6th of January. Sorry, go on ahead, Karen.
I agree, which I think is too early. But I think I'm letting people off the hook this year because it's been such a horrible year. But you're seeing, I travel to Dublin every day, and I'm seeing it all around the north or South Dublin, where I work, and they're in houses in Drimna near the hospital, and it's like from mid-November. Now that's a bit extreme. It's a bit extreme, but then again, it's a very horrible, unique year. And they're probably trying to put some life and happiness into children's lives and their own lives.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like you're kind of letting them off the hook, whereas it hadn't.
Then if
like
you didn't put up your Christmas tree, you'd get shamed on Facebook or something, you know.
I know in the States they put up their Christmas trees just after Thanksgiving.
Sorry?
They put their Christmas trees up just after Thanksgiving in the States, which is around the end of November. So
yeah,
that's a bit excessive. But
a month before even happens.
They take them down very early over there as well. Yeah,
probably do. Yeah,
but we did get snowed under with new members since the rally, and there were a few National Party members at the rally as well. I wonder will they join? But
hopefully.
I've heard as well. I mean, the last time I was talking to you, was just under 20, but I think it's grown since then.
30 since the rally, and
that's
they're coming in thick and
fast. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But not all have got back. There's a couple in the north. There's a couple of ones in the north that I've contacted and haven't got back yet. But Dahi had a few as well. Contacted him. But anybody else anything to add? Or yes, very good. No One's Flower said our family always took the tree down the 6th. That's right. Old Christmas Day.
Yeah,
that is it.
Mm.
In fact,
in
Irish
Christmas.
It is in Irish. It's Women's Christmas Day. That was the day. It was Nollaig na Man, which is Women's Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So the 6th of January is Old Christmas Day or Nollaig na Man, as in women na man. So that's traditional. But this business of in November, it's a bit obscene. But I know why some of them do it. But you know, I used to go around schools doing educational visits and about Christmas and that. And I used to say to them, well, we all know what happens at Christmas, don't we? Who comes at Christmas? And they all go, Santa. Like, well, who else comes then?
Okay. Well, it has been
in fact, one or two of them did say the baby Jesus came, but it's almost completely atheist.
Commercialized.
It's forgotten. It's forgotten. Yeah.
But even what a lot of people don't quite realize is when you see photographs of or images of Santa Claus, what color is he? What color clothes is he wearing? Red.
Coca-Cola. It used to be green. Yeah. It used to be green actually. It used to be green.
When did it change?
It's a Coca-Cola holiday. They kind of started promoting Santa Claus as part of the marketing blitz for Coca-Cola. And of course their colors, the corporate colors are red and white. And that's why Santa Claus wears red. It's entirely to do with Coca-Cola.
Exactly. It has entirely to do with it, No, he used to be green. It was a green originally. Yeah. Somebody's asking there.
Originally, he's German.
Yeah. Somebody's asking there, Karen, are you a druid?
No. Where did they come that from?
I don't know where have you got that from, Angry Angel? No, Karen's not a druid.
No.
True. I mean, I don't know much about druids. It's kind of like a pagan thing, isn't it? Or
yeah.
Well, aren't you up near Newgrange? No, do you not trot down there?
Well,
the solstice is coming up as well in about 2 weeks.
Yeah,
shortest day of the year.
Yeah.
Fergus, Paul is asking. I'm sure you don't want to say exactly whereabouts in Dublin, but whereabouts in Dublin are you? Just a general area, because
Goatstown.
Goatstown.
Near Dundrum.
Is that north? Is that
south?
Oh, is that south? Oh, yeah. I know. Whereabouts are you from? I'm not sure what. I'm asking Paul. I know he's a dub.
I have the big screen, so I can't see.
Colette's asking, is Santa going to have to get the job? That's a good question.
No, he got the all clear by our Irish government. Did not hear that.
Yeah.
He's fine.
Oh, right. Paul O'Neill's in Dublin 1. Whereabouts is Dublin 1? Is that central?
City centre. It's around the customs house.
Yeah.
Right.
Collins Street.
Always on the time DT asked if a gorilla gets coronavirus, will he get the job?
We're going from the sublime to the.
All right, right. Well, we'll maybe wrap it up there. It's getting a bit silly. Right, we're going to play out with our theme tune here. Do you hear that?
Yeah, it's Queen, Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
I used to live across the road from Freddie Mercury. That's an aside.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when he died. Anyway, that's for another day.
1991.
That's right. Yeah.
All right.
November, I think.
In fact, I was worried about this time. It was probably exactly.
Yeah.
Do you know what actually somebody said? I think it was actually. I was a big fan of Maradona. He died last week, sadly. But you know what? He actually died on the same day as George Best.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a great trivia question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I actually was thinking their lives were almost identical in a way. Outrageous talent, went wayward and died at 60. It seems to be the age where the genius dies at, 60.
Or 27 if you're into your rock and roll.
Yes. Yeah, the 27 Club.
That's it.
That was it.
Well, James Dean was 25, wasn't he?
Sorry?
All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up now.
Sure.
And thanks very much to all our guests.
Yeah, thank you, Fergus, for coming on. Hopefully you come on
Pleasure,
again.
guys.
Thanks, Karen.
Good night.
Thanks, Karen, again.
Arrivederci.
Okay.
Good night.
Slán live. Slán a cardja. Slán to all.